I first came to the realm of Lothair approximately 15 millennia ago. I was young and vibrant back then. Though I have always been Machiska, I was formerly paranoid and fearful. I was frequently racked with anxiety, tormented by a force or feeling you might know as the Creeper Jack. I lacked the power and wisdom that I possess today, and was secretive and protective of my true name. In that age, I lived under the moniker and persona of Lithia Liffendale. Lithia was so full of hope, joy, and optimism. Though the fairy lands of Lothair were not entirely without danger or sorrow, she found them to be endlessly pleasant, fresh, and inviting. The Fae folk seemed to adore her, and she, them. That was before the reign of my rival, the Arch-Fae Mordrenna. Though we were never on good terms, we managed to at least be cordial with one another on those rare occasions we found ourselves in the same place at the same time. Mordrenna was a manipulator, twisting and turning words, gestures, and expressions to suppress the will of others. There was neither magic nor telepathy, nor any basis of science behind her power. It was as if she simply consumed the will of her victims, transforming them utterly into her puppets. Even mindless beings seemed to obey her command. Mordrenna's power never worked on me, of course. I am the Wisinkein, gifted and cursed with the power to create life from nothing more than a wish. To me, the words of a wish are meant to shape life and give it form. To Mordrenna, words exist only for her to assume absolute control over everyone and everything in all the many realms. Any words she might dare to speak in my presence would only grant me their power to shape into a wish of my choice. Eventually, however, Mordrenna's ambition grew beyond merely dominating her own personal entourage. She sought to rule others as their queen. When she finally set her mind to it, Mordrenna took over the majority of Lothair in a matter of days, entirely without violence or bloodshed of any kind, transforming it into the queendom of Mordrenna. I alone kept her from ruling the entirety of the realm by shielding the Greenway from her corrupting influence. For thousands of years, Mordrenna ruled her queendom of Fae, while I, as Lithia Lippendale, ruled the Greenway. I raised colossal snails and built my home on the back of one. I granted the wishes of fairies and mortals alike and achieved legendary fame. While Mordrenna was known for her oppression, I became known for my compassion and generosity. They called me the fairy godmother of fairy godmothers. In time, however, Mordrenna's power and influence caught the attention of even more sinister and dangerous powers. An entity from beyond, so massive in scope and deep in its evil that it could literally wrap itself around all the many realms, had come looking for her. It squeezed the realms and prevented further expansion. It sent tendrils of its malice into the minds of mortals, probing the most cowardly and selfish among them for answers. After centuries of cerebral inquisition, a group of these mortals formed a culture, religion, and civilization of their own. They called themselves the Chazabal. The Chazabal gave up all worship of the primal deities their ancestors had honored. They began to pray to the inexplicable thing which spoke to them in their dreams. They gave the entity a true name, something it never had before, the Lebenga. Mordrenna spread her influence beyond her own queendom. and into the realm of Anarchy. She reached out to the Anarchy elves and planned to meet with their secret council of elders, the Unatskov. It was her plan to meet and dominate them, just as she had done to the former leaders of Lothair. Anarchy's spiritualists, however, were ever vigilant against threats from beyond their realm. The Anarchy lived under the constant threat of an apocalyptic prophecy which foretold the doom of their realm by something they called Jansonfa, the Realm Breaker. They had no idea who or what that thing was, but they suspected that either the Lebenga or Mordrenna might be it. The Unatskov sent messages to both the Lebenga and Queen Mordrenna, informing each of the other. Mordrenna, after a confrontation with the Creeperjack, had recently appointed the ancient witch, Gelzeria, as the first protector of the realm of Lothair. Upon hearing of the threat posed by the Lebenga, Mordrenna commissioned Gelzeria to perform a séance to contact the entity. Mordrenna never revealed to me the precise details of her communication with the Lebenga, but wherever she is, Gelzeria knows. Queen Mordrenna approached me shortly thereafter, seeking a truce. She was in a state of panic like I'd never known her capable of, and she warned me that the entity from beyond was more powerful than either of us. She said that the Lebenga would sweep through the many realms with a fury beyond rhyme or reason, time or space, good or evil. She said there was nothing and no one in all the many realms who could stop it. I told her the truth, that there was nothing I could do to help her. She asked me if there were any place in all the many realms where she might hide from the entity. The only answer I could offer was for her to go beyond the void at the edge of the realm, but I knew of no way to survive such a journey. No one had ever entered the void and returned. That's when Mordrenna told me that she had no choice but to seek out the Creeperjack and bargain for its help. I warned her never to make a deal with such a force, but Mordrenna's insatiable need for control would not have it. That was the last that I, or anyone, save perhaps the Creeperjack, ever saw of Queen Mordrenna. She vanished without a trace. Thousands of years later, when Mordrenna was all but a fading memory, the fairy city of Samonloth was sacked by an army of mortals led by the Chazabal. They first targeted and captured Gelzeria, protector of the realm. Then they butchered every fairy in the city, seeking nothing less than the absolute destruction of all fae-kind. A lone fairy woman, a witch named Sennzia, survived the carnage and escaped Samonloth. She was no archfey, nor was she ancient. Sennzia was barely an adult woman by even mortal standards. Her only claim to notoriety at all was that she had studied hexcraft under the tutelage of Gelzeria. That gave her the benefit of knowledge and training beyond most apprentice witches in the realm. Sennzia fled, alone, to the narrow gap between the Big Bramble Bluffs and the High Horn Hills, where the Enchanted River and the Lan met to form the Damrian River. The Damrian River carved a path between those mountain ranges, which offered a powerful defensive position against any army attempting to move through it. There, Sennzia chose to turn and make a stand against the Chazabal. She was but one fairy witch, alone against an army of mortals, driven by a destructive force like nothing anyone in the many realms had ever experienced. Sennzia, however, in a long prior moment of overzealousness during her training under Gelzeria, had once stumbled upon forbidden scrolls which revealed to her the true name of a powerful demon. Gelzeria caught her before she could speak the name and warned Sennzia never to summon the demon under any circumstances. If she did, the creature would never leave. Sennzia recalled the name, there at the river chasm, and as the smoke from the Chazabal army approached from the hollow below her, she called out to the demon, named in Gelzeria's scrolls. "Zaphistido!" she shouted as loudly as her young voice could carry. "Zaphistido! I am Sennzia Floke, and I have a bargain to make with you." As Sennzia later told me, she had never been more afraid in her life as the moment she first met Zaphistido. Even when the Chazabal viciously savaged Salmon Loth, her wits remained about her, thanks to Gelzeria's training. Yet, when the massive yellow fiend appeared in a cloud of smoke, with its huge leathery wings, curved horns and a thick chain wrapped around his ankle, Sennzia trembled in sheer terror. Sennzia called upon Zaphistido to defend the realm, and in exchange she would allow him to remain forever. She offered him a chance at redemption, exoneration, and freedom from an eternity in hell. Zaphistido accepted, with provisions. He brought with him a contingent of demons, devils, ifrit, ogres and trolls, all loyal to only him. He brought spiderlings, slimonids, shankson and vixpeth, and many others long gone now, and far too terrible to name, lest they somehow come back from the depths of nightmare. The Chazabal were defeated, and Zaphistido and his loyal soldiers remained in the chasm. They made a city there, and named it Frightsburg, and Zaphistido remains there, serving as governor to this very day. The realm praised Sennzia Floke as a hero and savior, and named her queen. The entire realm was renamed in her honor, the Queendom of Sennzia, and the Sennzian calendar began. Only the days of the week are different, having been changed after the birth of Sennzia's daughters. How could a fairy give birth to children? Simple. They make a wish from a Wisinkein. Imagine my surprise when, after 1,000 years of her rule, the fairy queen, Sennzia Floke, ventured into the Greenway to ask for my help in granting her 3 daughters. It wasn't the request for children which surprised me. Mortals and fairies alike tend to want children for so many reasons. It was the precise wording of her request which struck me. As soon as she spoke the words, I knew that I would need to do whatever was necessary to grant Sennzia her request. It would take millions of wishes, but it would be a small price to pay for what Sennzia was planning. Her request went like this. The eldest, I ask for a daughter of gold, who, when reaching adulthood, will never grow old. One who'll shape her own land and rule over each season, with sweetness and love beyond all rhyme or reason. The second, I ask for a daughter of silver, who, becoming a woman, her skin will not wither. One abundant in style, in poise and in grace, her tender heart always beyond all time or space. For the youngest, I ask for a daughter of pitch, who, when coming of age, will become a great witch. With her magical powers, she'll be smart, quick and gleeful, her genius always beyond all good or evil. It wasn't just the name of Zaphistido, which Sennzia had learned from Gelzeria, the former protector of the realm, must have also shared with her apprentice very specific details regarding the power and threat of the Lebenga. Sennzia had defeated its mortal army, but the entity was still out there, somewhere, biding its time, regathering its forces. The Chazabal, or some other army just like it, which served the Lebenga, would eventually attack Sennzia again. It was only a matter of time. Queen Mordrenna was right. There was nothing and no one in all the many realms who could stop the Lebenga. Not yet, anyway. Sennzia's daughters, like their mother before them, would defy the Lebenga. They would do so with poise and grace, quickness and genius, tenderness of heart, sweetness and love, beyond all rhyme or reason, all good or evil, and all time or space. Together, the daughters of Sennzia Floke would be unstoppable. At least, that was the plan before I let the creeper jack in the door to mess it all up.